You've seen it everywhere. Things are more expensive right now. Back to school shopping hitting families harder this year. New reports show that inflation and potential new tariffs under President Trump's trade policy are driving up costs for school supplies. A bank rate survey found 20% of shoppers say the cost is straining their budgets, while a Credit Karma report says nearly 40% of parents cannot afford back to school shopping at all. Many are cutting back, switching to cheaper brands, even taking on debt just to cover essentials like backpacks and supplies. Here to help us manage our pocketbooks as we stock up for another year, Rhoden, Senior Vice President and Consumer Banking Regional Executive at Bank of America. Thanks for the time.
Absolutely. Good morning, Cheryl.
Are you noticing any changes in how families are budgeting or maybe using credit cards compared to just last year?
Well, absolutely. And we are absolutely asking families to start by creating a very simple, realistic budget. I mean, families have to start out by listing essentials, things like supplies, textbooks, clothes, and set a spending limit. They have to track their purchases to stay within budget. Using tools like Bank of America's Better Money Habits can help parents and students both build smart budgeting habits that reduce financial strain and help overspending when they hit the stores.
Are there any signs that the back to school spending season may be evolving into more of a year-round expense cycle for Metro Atlanta families instead of that big, bulky expense that comes right at the start of the year?
Absolutely, but what families can really do is focus on the essentials. They can plan ahead instead of taking on that bulk. They can take advantage of seasonal sales and discounts. They can create, clear back to school budgeting again. They can give families that visibility into where their money is going. I talked about Better Money Habits. That offers tips into managing day-to-day expenses and understand the costs without losing sight of their long-term priorities. And again, that bulk that we talked about, that can be spread over time because they can take advantage of those sales and really look at their costs instead of, bulking up.
If someone just cannot afford everything on their child's supply list, what are the best options for finding some help and especially finding help without maybe the stigma someone might feel is around that?
Really, the one thing that parents really should do is look at what makes the most sense around their finances. And so the big thing that they should do is look at young children being the most important. The help that they can do, the help that they need is looking at the things that they have, budgeting, planning, treating back to school like any other recurring expense. Set a cap, stick to it, don't sacrifice long-term savings. That better money habit that I talked about, that really allows them to really chunk down the things that are the biggest expense. And the big help that they can seek is the expense they don't really want to lean into.
I think about, especially for parents, the pressure that comes around money, but really that's true for any individual. Pressure is pretty immense right now, even as inflation has been trending up a little bit. When we look kind of wider scope, even beyond back to school, what are you seeing as the biggest hurdles people are facing in the year ahead?
I think the biggest hurdle is them not being as planful. So ideally, planning really starts well before the school year begins. So they have to really think about expenses like they would any other annual bill. So the earlier they plan, the easier it is they have to manage. And so they have to start small, save consistently, set up dedicated savings buckets for short and long-term goals, from school supplies to tuition, automating savings, anything that they can track, they should. And then again, leaning into any tools that they can use allows them to be more planful really in their budgeting.
Just chip away at it. All right, Dawn, thanks so much for the guidance. Appreciate the time.